Hi, my name is Sarah, and my educational giant is George S. Counts. He was a social reconstructionist, so just really fast, what that means is that they focus a lot on teaching students to think critically. Um, they focus a lot on hands-on personal involvement. They see the teacher as a facilitator that kind of presents information and then lets the students kind of take it in and think about it, and then they also focus a lot on becoming socially aware. Um, in the textbook, we read that according to social reconstructionists, students need to be confronted with the reality of the world in which they live in order to improve and change situations. They need to know the facts, no matter how upsetting or disturbing they might be. I think that quote is kind of interesting because there's a lot of things that we want to. I don't have kids yet, but I would assume there's a lot of things that parents would want to protect their children from. Um, just going back a little bit to the example they gave us in the textbook of 9/11, how a lot of the social reconstructionist teachers kind of strayed away from the lesson plans that day and kind of focused a lot more on 9/11 and the World Trade Centers. And I think that's interesting that they would do that because there's a lot of things that could really affect the way that students see the world. So I think that's something that we need to be aware of, and it's something that we need to watch out for because it could really affect a lot of people. And then it goes on to say that social reconstructionists advocate that schools should take the lead to reconstruct society. In reconstructing society, a better world would be created. Schools have more than a responsibility to communicate knowledge, they have the mission to transform society as well. The school's purpose is to teach students and the public not to settle for what is, but rather to dream about what might be. So, social reconstructionists are big advocates for change, and this quote, I think, depicts that perfectly, because it's telling us not to settle for what is, but to dream about what might be. And then I think that to add on to that, they don't just dream about what might be, but they also make what might be happen. And so, okay, moving on to George Sylvester Counts. He was born on December 9th, 1889 in Baldwin City, Kansas. In 1911, he received his BA and then went on to study at the University of Chicago, where he received his PhD. And then after that, he began teaching at many universities, some of which were Yale, the University of Chicago, and the University of Washington. But he didn't just teach at those three. He taught at quite a few more, actually. And then in 1934, he and a few colleagues wrote The Social Frontier, which was a pamphlet which was stated to become the voice of social reconstructionism. And then after that, he retired from Teachers College in 1956, but he still taught at different colleges until 1971. And then on November 10th, 1974, he died in Belleville, Illinois. So he was a pretty educated man. He had done a lot of research. He went to school for a really long time, and then he taught for a really long time. So he was a pretty intelligent, wise man, and he had a lot of knowledge about what he was talking about. So throughout his life, he wrote a number of pamphlets and journals and articles. Among these were The Selective Character of American Secondary Education, The Social Composition of Boards of Education, The Soviet Challenge to America, and of course The Social Frontier. And he was most well known for his work called Dare the Schools, Build a New Social Order, in which he stated, an education that does not strive to promote the fullest and most thorough understanding of the world is not worthy of the name. I think that's pretty strongly worded. Basically what he's saying is that educations that don't teach about society and about the world, and teaches students to understand what is going on in the world is not worthy of the name education, which I think is crazy, because growing up my whole life, education has been math and science and reading and writing. And so I guess I haven't gotten a real education. So he also states, it's also been stated that he engaged in the positive task of creating a new tradition in American life, which goes along with change. So he was a strong advocate for understanding the world and social problems, and I think that's important. And I think that as students and as the future, um, teachers are teaching the future citizens of society. And so I think it's important that we understand what's going on, and we understand that it's kind of our duty to think about what's going on and then take a stand. And I think that social reconstructionism is an important facet to education, because I think that as we learn about society and what's going on, that we become more as we become more aware of what's going on, we are more capable of becoming effective voters, effective citizens, and I think that's important. I don't think that it's the only thing that we should be taught, because I do think that reading and writing and math are important to our education and they will help us in our futures, but I think that social education or social reconstruction is important, and I think that we do need to be learning about society. And George S. Counts was a big advocate for that. And I guess that's it. Thanks.